Governor Ron DeSantis released his proposed education budget this week, and despite asking for an historic $29.7 billion for K-12 education, advocates say it's not enough.
DeSantis has asked for a record $1.5 billion for teacher pay, an increase of about $246 million. He's also asked for about $1.7 billion for early childhood education. Teacher advocates like Andrew Spar, the director of the state's largest teachers union, the Florida Education Association, are concerned that the budget only increases per pupil spending by about 2% per child at a time of record inflation. Spar said he's also worried that $3 billion of the budget is earmarked for the state's universal voucher program, which he said siphons monies away from the state's public schools. He also says the impacts of underfunding and understaffing public schools can be seen in the recent Nation's Report Card, in which students' math and English scores in Florida plummeted to the lowest they've been in more than 20 years.
So, Alan, in the last fiscal year, we had nearly 10,000 vacancies for public school teachers and staff around Florida. Does this help reduce that vacancy?
This is the dumbing down of America. I mean, we also don't teach civics in our classrooms, so these young children don't know what government is and how it impacts their lives and why they should care about it. And I find it's really interesting. We're not funding public education well enough in Florida, yet the governor is also proposing a Second Amendment summer, a sales tax holiday, so people don't have to pay taxes on buying guns and ammunition. So let's save $8 million right there, while our kids and our teachers don't have what they need in our public schools.
This is like the 5th year in a row, I think, that the governor has tried to increase funding for public education and education in general, April.
Yes, he has. And this budget that he released, that he proposed last week, includes strong funding for VPK, Voluntary Pre-Kindergarten, as well as School Readiness, the Early Learning Coalition. So we know that children who begin their education long before they get to kindergarten are going to be much more successful. And this budget also includes $10 million dedicated to civics education, because there's a strong push to put civics back into the schools so that people understand how the government works and why it's beneficial to participate. Why should you vote? They're going to learn that in these civics classes. And they're taking out a lot of things that they really don't need to be teaching students. There's also a huge amount of money in here for workforce education, so that those students who are not college bound can come out of high school and go to work productively.
Shelley, does this help with our education vacancies?
Well, you know, where we are now with these terrible results from testing for math and reading from our public school students is a result of the systematic underfunding of public education ever since Jeb Bush was governor, and it's now coming home to roost. And also note that with all this money going into private charter schools from our tax dollars, those charter schools are not required to test students in the same way that the public school students are tested. So there's really very little accountability for the money that's going into the charter school system. We don't know how those students are doing, but we do know that there are a lot of Republicans making a lot of money from our tax dollars in the charter school system.